So I'm calling on my fellow progressive Democrats in Arizona to run a primary campaign against Kyrsten Sinema. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. If you share my concerns, maybe you could like this video and subscribe to this channel, maybe even click that little bell that will notify you when I post something new. So in a prior video, I talked about how the moderates in the Senate are causing all kinds of problems for the Democrats, and I'll post a link to that video up here. The poster children for this moderate group are Senators Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona. Now, Joe Manchin, to be fair, represents one of the most conservative states in the country. This is a state that Trump won by double digits. And with its history of coal production, you can imagine how well environmental issues go over there. Nevertheless, despite the frustration Democrats have with Manchin, he has been someone who pushed aggressively for an expansion of the unemployment insurance. He's agreed that taxes need to be increased on corporations. And along with Senator Amy Klobuchar, he negotiated a really outstanding voting rights piece of legislation, which hopefully will pass the Senate. Given the fact that Joe Manchin is playing a leading role in this legislation, my hope is that he'll be willing to cut an exception into the filibuster rule to allow this legislation to go into effect, because it's critical for American democracy to continue. Now, Kyrsten Sinema is a whole other matter. She represents a state that is trending Democratic. At best, Arizona at this point is a swing state. We have to remember it's one of the states that Joe Biden won, and as the audit showed, he actually won by a larger margin than had originally been reported. Now, Sinema has always represented herself to be a moderate. And during Trump's era, it was easy for her to represent herself that way. I mean, pretty much everything Trump did was so outrageous, it was easy to vote against him. Nevertheless, I do think that she won the support of many Democrats under some false pretenses. After all, Kyrsten Sinema is proud of the fact that she is one of the few LGBTQ members of Congress ever elected. She started her political career as a progressive activist, running for state representative as a member of the Green Party. She's famous for wearing all kinds of crazy colored hair on the floor of the Senate while she's giving speeches. You would think, given these facts, that even though she's a relatively moderate member, she still has certain progressive tendencies. Oh, how wrong we were. While Joe Manchin has agreed that we need to increase taxes upon corporations and the rich, she has actually stood in the way of it. And given the fact that we need every single vote of the Democratic caucus to pass anything in the Senate, her failure to support our position there literally dooms any legislative effort. She's also the senator who basically stood in the way of changing the Medicare rules so that Medicare was able to negotiate drug prices with prescription companies. Not surprisingly, it turns out she's one of the biggest recipients of prescription drug maker PAC money. She has said that she does not support the $3.5 trillion price tag of President Biden's signature family plan. And yet, she refuses to give any kind of actual number as to what she prefers. She claims to support the For the People Act, and yet she says that she's not in favor of eliminating the filibuster to achieve it. I think Kyrsten Sinema, who was narrowly elected in 2018, is afraid that if she appears to be too much of a progressive, that it will result in her losing the general election. And that's why Arizona Democrats need to mount a primary challenge against her starting now. She needs to know that there's a cost for her taking these positions directly contrary to what the progressive Democrats favor. She may be currying favor of all those moderates, but it's not going to do her any good if the Democrats aren't willing to support her. Now, you should know, I'm generally a good party soldier who does not favor this kind of intrapartisan conflict. I've argued many times against primary challenges being mounted against relatively progressive people because they weren't progressive enough. I've argued many times that doing so only endangers their re-election when it comes to the general election. Kyrsten Sinema, though, is another matter entirely. She's essentially turned her back on the people who first got her elected, and she needs to be reminded of who she owes her position to. This is no laughing matter. If Congress is not able to pass Senator Manchin's and Senator Klobuchar's voting rights legislation, our democracy likely will be doomed. And if she's able to blow up with her single vote the entire legislative package that the Biden administration has put together, well, that'll spell doom for the Democrats in the next 2 elections. This is one example where it's time to apply pressure, and that pressure should start now. We shouldn't wait for the next election to pass. We should make it clear that progressive Democrats are unhappy with her, and if she's going to regain our support, she needs to make some changes in the way she's been doing business in Washington. Well, if you agree with me or disagree with me, I'd love to hear your comments down below. And if you could leave a like and maybe subscribe to this channel, that'd be a huge help. I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.